Hey y'all, welcome to the Team LocoFit Roundtable, hosted by me, Laurin Conlon, owner of Team LocoFit. Each week, I am joined by one of our coaches to dive headfirst into the nutrition, training, mindset, and coaching strategies we use with our clients. If you loved the show, please subscribe, leave us a review, tell a friend, you know the drill. And for more information about coaching, the programs we offer, and additional content, visit teamlocofit.com.
All right, and I am back this week with Coach Sam.
Hello.
And we are in the first week of 2020. This is the first Monday of
2021.
Oh, geez.
We are not going back. You shut your mouth.
We got a time machine, guys. And we went back to... What is wrong with me?
Get to do it all over again.
All right, rewind. It is the first Monday of 2021.
Yes.
As you guys are listening to this. And we actually wanted to do, obviously New Year's resolutions have been a thing, not just in the health and fitness and wellness space, but this has just been a thing in all of the world. But a lot of people have health related resolutions. And we were just kind of going back and forth with different ideas. And Sam actually came up with a really good way of categorizing it. And it was basically 4 different types of, people, I guess we could say. And what does your resolution say about you, essentially? So we think we're really cool. It's probably really cheesy, but I think it'll actually help you guys conceptualize what we're talking about, and how to basically strategize if you are falling into one of these extreme categories, and how to not completely change the resolution, but maybe we change it a little bit. And let's just say first and foremost that we are not anti-resolution. I know there's a lot of people who try to parade this whole thing you don't need to make a resolution, you can start any day. Okay, yeah, I get it, right? Cool. But if somebody wants to do this and it's a catalyst for the change, that's awesome. Absolutely. And I'm all for that. I'm also all for, starting doing something right away, even if it's a Wednesday in the middle of the year. Yes, that should be a priority also. But there is nothing wrong with setting some kind of a goal, especially in the beginning of a year, especially after 2020. I think we can all set some exciting new goals leading into the new year, which is 2021. I got it right this time. All right. So what's the first one, Sam?
So these are kind of based off of the responses that we got on Instagram stories, as well as personal experiences and things that I know I've done and that I've heard other people do in the past too. So the first one is me, and that is the Overachiever. And this is somebody who has a list 10 pages long of everything they want to do in the new year. And by doing so, typically none of it gets done because it's too much. And yeah, this was me last year. I had I think 5 things I wanted to do just on a daily basis. And I did it for a while, but it's just not something that can be sustained.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's really common with any goal, right? And everybody wants to be okay, I'm going to do this, this, this. I'm going to have the perfect morning routine. I'm going to make the most banging cup of coffee. I'm going to read 18 journals. I'm going to do right. You're going to do all of these things. Mm-hmm. And that might work some days, right? And you said, that might work for a few weeks, a few months even. But is that really a sustainable thing? And what we know about change in general is that actually small changes are really the most important ones. And that actually is generally what is that catalyst for larger, longer term changes. I'll often hear clients and updates be oh, I made this one change. And I don't know, everything else just seemed to be better this week. And it's it wasn't because of the actual thing that you took or you did. It's because that then got everything else rolling. And once you were accomplished with that, it kind of put a stop to, let's call it a bad behavior, inserted a good behavior, and then we continue to kind of build off of that. The book Atomic Habits does a really good job of breaking this down. And it's something that intuitively we kind of know, but he lays it out in a really easy to understand way that I think people can really appreciate. So, if you want to, actually achieve these goals, what might be useful is, instead of saying, okay, here's 18 things that I'm going to do every day, maybe pick a few things to start. And then what you can also do too, is you can reassess those goals. So I think that a lot of people, and this is, really common, not just for resolutions, but just in general, is they kind of say this is what I want to do now. But it's all right, well, what's going to happen in a few months? What's going to happen later in the year? And maybe you don't need that current thing in June, but you needed it now. So, businesses often reflect on things on a quarterly basis. And I kind of feel that's a good just thing to do for really everybody.
Yeah.
That's, 3 months at a time. Like, hey, I'm going to try these 2 or 3 things for 3 months. Then let me reassess. Maybe I need to continue to do those things because they haven't become ingrained yet. And then I'm going to move forward. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing that is missing, like across the board in all the ones we're going to talk about, is that follow-up. It's the, what accountability do I have? And that's one of the things that coaching has always been huge for me and I know that it's huge for a lot of our clients, is that I'm checking in on my goals on a weekly basis. Like, I'm not just saying I'm going to do this thing or setting out to do this thing and then never like asking myself, am I doing this? So having that alarm set in your phone from a month from now to like reevaluate, or having some kind of like a check-in system with yourself, or a reminder in your journal or planner or whatever, like just something that like you're checking yourself on these behaviors. And like you said, making sure you narrow down those behaviors to things that are either going to be the most impactful, like that will make a difference and that you really need to change, or the things that maybe are, if you have a hard time with change, which a lot of people do, finding that thing that, yeah, everybody does. But if you can find that thing that's like, okay, I know I can do this. And like you said, when you have that thing that you can do and you do it on a consistent basis, you build that self-efficacy, you build that self-confidence that like, yeah, I can do this. And then once I've done that, I can add on to that. And that's that compound effect, or that atomic habit, that spiral that's a good spiral.
Yeah, this is a good spiral. For once, we're spiraling in a positive direction, so it's all good. This is something, if you guys listen to any of Andy Frisella's stuff, he always talks about the power list. So it kind of builds on the same idea, right?
Yeah,
and it's basically, a lot of people want to have, they have a to-do list that's this huge thing, right? And then you don't get stuff done, and then you're like, oh shit. And then, you kind of push it off, or you forget it or whatever. And basically the idea of the power list is you have 3 to 5 things on there. I can't remember if his is 3 or 5, 3 to 5, we'll just say that, things that you need to get done in the day, right? Like, they are things that are moving you forward. It's not like, I brush my teeth, right? Well, I mean, I guess if you don't brush your teeth, then maybe you should put that on.
Change that habit, yeah.
That's the first fucking thing you need to be doing. But for everybody else who has normal hygiene, but for something that's, say you want to start reading, right? Hey, I want to read every single day. Okay, well, that needs to become part of it. And then once that becomes a habit for you, that might be a month, it might be a year. But once that becomes something that you just do every day, that's no longer on the power list, right? Like, once it becomes easy, like, so for somebody who isn't very active, right? Or like being active on a daily basis is hard for them. Okay, well, that needs to be on the power list. That wouldn't be on my power list anymore because I'm active generally pretty much every day. So if I were to put that on my power list, that would be kind of like cheating it, right?
Yeah.
So you need to put something on there that is actively moving you forward. And once you have set that into kind of your routine and your habits, you need to move forward and you need to pick a different goal. So that's another way of looking at it. And that's kind of a way to consistently check in with yourself. So whether it's, hey, I'm going to quarterly reassess my goals. Hey, I'm going to have a power list, or, I'm just going to, check in with myself, or I am going to hire somebody as a coach. That really is the biggest thing with coaching. Obviously, first and foremost is you don't know something. And hopefully the goal of hiring a coach is to learn how to change said behaviors, goals, habits, health, whatever. Once you get past that point, to continue to grow, having that accountability really is everything. And that's why we have clients for years. And it's not because they don't know what to do. It's because they want that accountability. They want that challenge, and they have that person there in their corner who obviously knows what they're doing and also understands them as a person.
Yeah. And just last thing on that is that I think about the habits that I have now that maybe I didn't have 5 years ago or 3 years ago. And one of those is like weighing my food. Like I remember the idea when that first came. I think I don't know if it was you, or I think it might have been you, who was just like, you need to start actually weighing your food. And I was like, God, this is gonna be such a hassle. And now it's something that I just do. Like I'll put stuff on my scale without turning my scale on, because I don't weigh my stuff as much anymore. Yeah. But I'll still put stuff on my scale to pour things in, even if I'm not weighing it. It's just become such a habit and such a routine. Had that been something I was doing with 20 other things, it wouldn't have happened. But it was something that I introduced and made a priority. And once I had that down, we moved on from there. And so that's just that power of like something becoming a habit and really giving your attention to that one thing. And being intentional about that rather than trying to just do it all. And the new year, new me, like it's not going to happen. Just because it's a new day, you're not going to become a new person. You have to actually change habits to do that.
Yeah, that would be super cool. I wish all of us could do that, but that's where patience comes in. And that's where we always try and talk with clients too about, and you guys have heard this on multiple other podcasts, so when somebody comes to us and says, hey, I have this body composition goal, and we're like, all right, it's probably going to take X amount of time to get there. And somebody's like, oh my God, what? It's like, well, yes, because realistically, if we actually put in consistent time and go through these proper cycles, we do that for 2 or 3 years, you're actually going to end up where you want to be. And then you're there. Like, it's not going to be this new year, new me, drop a bunch of weight, then something comes up, then you gain a bunch back, and then you do this. Or you decide that you want to pick up, hey, I'm going to start doing CrossFit. And you start going to CrossFit 5 or 6 days a week. Well, guess what's going to happen? Well, first of all, you're going to get injured. And then you're going to stop wanting to go, right? So it's like, and I'm not against people having big goals, because having big goals are really important. But for somebody who's not training or doesn't have any background in that, saying that they're going to do CrossFit 5 or 6 days a week is not a thing. If you'd already done it before, or you've been training your whole life, different story, right? Like, hey, I'm going to get back into it. I really want to be consistent and go all the time. That's fine. But if you have, or take me, I haven't run in years, right? If I was like, yep, I'm going to do an ultra marathon in the desert without training, like, in a few months, be like, ooh, maybe not. Maybe not. So don't worry, guys. I'm not doing that. I did tell my friend though, because we were talking about, he was like, yeah, it's like I'm on my bucket list to do a marathon. And I was like, well, which one do you want to do? And he was like, maybe like the Disney one. And I was like, all right, if you wear a tutu and ears, we'll do it together.
Oh shit.
And he was like, okay. I was like, fuck. God damn it. And then I was like, well, when is it? And he's like, that's like next month. I'm like, oh God. So I looked it up. Don't worry. Listen to this. I don't even know how this is a thing. They're doing a virtual marathon. Okay. I don't understand how that would happen. I'm assuming they mail you something and you like put a clip on, to obviously make sure that you actually ran it. Who's going to run 20? Anyway. And then here was the weirder part. It's sold out. How is it sold out?
What's the capacity?
Anyways, so I don't know. At some point in my life, I might have to do that because I already said yes. But I feel like I can like hack it for 26 miles. 100 miles, hard.
No desire.
But I can
even
hack
with
26.
Even with that big goal though, you got to think like you're not going to make a huge change. It's not like tomorrow you're going to run 26 miles. You're going to start small. You're going to start building on that.
Yeah.
So big goals, have big goals, but don't think that you're going to be at that goal tomorrow.
Yes. If you want to get your PhD, you're not like, oh, I'm going to get that tomorrow. No, that usually takes 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And most people like generally accept that, right? But that's what kind of has to happen when we're talking about these types of goals. So that's the overachiever, very common, particularly in this industry. People who are drawn to this are going to be overachievers, generally speaking. And so it's just something that we see over and over again. So what is the second type of resolution? Or resolutioner? Is that a word? I don't know. Just made that up.
I just lost you. I'm sorry. My AirPods. But
dude, AirPods are, this is why I still wear these. Like, they don't look very good. I have AirPods, but I feel like they die so fast.
They're not dead. I just think they I don't know, whatever, but it's fine.
Well, mine die all the time.
It's fine.
It's fine. So 2020, the last podcast we're recording, you're just die.
Why not? Just trajectory on point. Okay. Next. You ready for the next one?
Yes.
Okay. I can't hear you again.
You can't hear me?
No, I can't. Never mind.
Okay.
Oh, whatever. All right.
Technical difficulties on par with us.
Whatever. I don't.
The next one that we'll be recording together, you will be here in Tampa. I'm so excited.
Don't worry about it. Okay, so the next one kind of goes along with the lines of the like doing CrossFit every single day, and that's the extremist, the person who's going to meditate for 1 hour every single day, who's going to cut out all sugar, all carbs. This is when I actually heard somebody replied they were going to cut out all sugar, all carbs, period. And it's just those goals that are like either it is all in or all out.
Yeah, and that I got a lot of those on the question box too, which is obviously what spurred us to come up with this. And juice cleanse for 45 days. Oh, run a 5K every day. Oh, do the just like now. The exercise goals if they're within reason and that's somebody's, what they're doing, right? Like, so if running a 5K every day actually might not be a lot for some people if they're training for these like long endurance events. But generally speaking, the people who are making those types of resolutions are not those people, right? They're just people who are like, hey, I want to have a big goal. I want to go, do something. That's why we see a lot of people who, hey, I want to get on, I want to do a bikini competition, right? And, a lot of times we have conversations with clients like, is it really the fact that you want to do the competition for the goal, to learn about yourself, to challenge yourself, to actually do this big thing? Or do you just want to hold yourself to something because you want to get in shape? And we can do other things, particularly photo shoots are great for that, right? Like I love dieting clients for photo shoots who want to, just kind of set a goal for themselves, a physique-based goal, and not compete, because it's like the perfect happy medium, it's like, all right, like we can get a little bit aggressive, you can, we can diet, we can kind of fill out, do whatever for the photo shoot, but like, we don't need to lose those like last 10 extra death pounds that like really fuck your body up and aren't really necessary, unless somebody actually wants to do a competition. That's totally fine. But if you're just doing it because you're like, I want to get in shape, that's the wrong reason for sure. So same thing with the, hey, I'm trying to eat better. Like, why don't I just, and now I will say there is something to be said about, all right, if you have a problem with X, right? Like, let's say it's soda. I don't really drink soda, but I know some people like really have an issue with that, right? They drink a lot of regular soda. For some people it might be necessary to be like, you know what, like if we've tried to limit it and it's not working, sometimes you got to set that, like, I'm not doing this, right? Like, I'm not doing this for a week, I'm not doing this for a month. Like, so we're not against those types of goals, but if it's like, you think you're going to wake up on tomorrow, or I guess the other day on January 1st, and all of a sudden you're never going to do this for the whole next year, it's like, that's not really reasonable. Short term maybe, but not really a long term thing.
Or that you're going to do it every single day and that you've never done it once before. It's like, that's a huge lifestyle change, depending on what it is. I mean, there's some things like writing a gratitude list every single day. That's going to take you 2 minutes, and all for it. But if it's going to be meditating for an hour and you've never sat down to meditate before, like, you're going to like be up and out of there in the first 2 days, because that's a lot.
Also,
but
meditating. Me and meditating are not. I know I would be the ideal candidate.
You really would.
Fuck off. But I try, and it's just, everybody's got their thing, right? Okay, so before I did jujitsu, I was doing yoga for a while. I thought that was like, you know what, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to like do this thing on the side that's not lifting, that's different, it's challenging, it's going to be relaxing, because I tried meditating multiple times, just didn't really like it. Okay, I'll try. No, didn't work for me. I was like, I got to go to the hardest class, I got to push myself, fuck these other people in the class, I got to beat them. Like, it was, it became that. And then I was like, this is not working. You know what I mean? And then once I found jujitsu, it's very different. Obviously it's a little more violent. It's very aggressive.
Yoga?
It's a little more aggressive than yoga, but
I don't know what kind of yoga classes you were taking. Sounds a lot more aggressive.
Slightly. But it was still like very mentally challenging, and it's physically draining, and you really can't leave stressed out because you're so tired. But just in general, I just found that was better for me, and that was like a more, meditative state, I guess you could say, for me. And I think that's one thing with resolutions and just goals in general is, you can't always look to what other people are doing and think that that's the best thing that you should do. So for example, journaling, right? A lot of people like journaling, and I encourage clients like, hey, try this, maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. But I don't think that everybody needs to have an extensive journal that they write in every day. If that doesn't work for you, if you dread it, if you don't want to do it, if you half-ass it, it might be better to do something else, right? Like, it might be better to go for a 10-minute walk and just like listen to nature. Like, that might be your thing. Other people might be like, that doesn't fucking help me at all. I need to go do that. Like, so part of figuring out like something that, is a positive, healthy habit might be some trial and error. So if you set your goal for the new year to be like, I'm going to do this, and then you don't like it, it's okay. You can change it.
You can change it. You can change it. Yeah, absolutely.
Don't feel bad about, I think a lot of people will feel bad, like, or like you said, wake up, meditate for an hour, oh, this super successful person, they do this perfect morning routine, and why can't I do this? So it's like, okay, maybe that works obviously for them.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not your thing. Maybe you want to write, like you said, a gratitude list that takes 2 minutes, and you take a cold shower and you feel ready for the day. Cool. Maybe that's all you need. Maybe they need a longer time. Maybe they have a very different life than you, and like that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see stuff like that and I'm like, oh, this is over. I'm overwhelmed looking at your morning routine. Like I can't do it.
Yeah. And it's not applicable to everyone. Like I remember I wanted to have a morning routine last year. I was getting up at 3 a.m. for work. Like what morning am I going to have?
Yeah.
So it became, I wanted to have like an afternoon routine, because I would come home exhausted. And it was like, rather than just like falling on the couch, like I'm going to start and do like this as soon as I get home. And that helped me, but it has to fit your lifestyle. And I think along with that, some people are in that mind. Most people have the all or nothing mindset, right? Like either I can or I can't. I will or I won't. And that's where these extreme goals come in. It's like, I have to be, and they'll say it to you, like I'm the kind of person who has to go, like I have to just do it or I won't do it at all. And I think for some people, yeah, that's true. Like you said, with like the soda or whatever, like some people can't have a little, and if they do, it spirals. And that is true for some people. Other people just have never tried to have balance. And so it's to recognize that just because you're not doing it every day doesn't mean it's not making a difference. Mm-hmm. Just because you're only doing 2 or 3 days a week doesn't mean that's not good enough. It's that bar that you've set for yourself that it's only good if I do it 7 days a week, where no, meditating 2 times a week will probably make a difference for you, mm-hmm. if that's what you want to do. Or if you're not moving, lifting 2 times a week will make a difference for you. That's okay. It doesn't have to be extreme. It can be moderate, and it can make a difference if you give yourself that metric and that bar to let that be good enough and not hold yourself to that extreme standard.
Because what ends up happening is then you either, like, there's the two scenarios. You either go 5 days a week for 3 mm-hmm. months and then you stop going. Yep. Or you go 2 days a week for 6 months and then you go, you know what, this is easy. And then you go a third day. You do that for another 6 months. And then you're like, you know what, I've done this for a year. I can go 4 times a week. And then you're just happy with that. And you're making the progress that you want to make. And I think that it just takes a lot of just self-understanding and just, just kind of self-control too, to understand, like, all right, I have to, like, here's where I want to be, but I realize that this is going to take some time. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's obviously there's a lot of reasons why that's harder for people nowadays to do, but that's our mission, to try and get people to, like, actually be better versions of themselves. And going from 0 to 100 is not the way. I'd rather you be at 80 or 85 mm-hmm. really forever.
Yeah.
Obviously if you have very particular goals, you're going to have to be 110%. That's fine. But if we're talking about the person who's just starting, mm-hmm. we're not here.
Yeah. So, and that 110% is an eventual thing too. It's like when you're first in prep, that first couple months, like, yeah, you mess up here and there, it's okay. But like come game time, no. But that's like, again, it's all gradual and
totally different.
Accepting that patience is like the hardest part.
Yep. It is so hard for all of it. I think that's like the hardest thing with all of this. Mm-hmm. But it really is the only way, because then you can look back in a few years and go, okay, like, cool. I actually made some progress here. So what's
that time's going to pass anyway. Would you rather spend that 3 years going back and forth between the same 2 goals and never actually staying anywhere, or taking that 3 years to gradually get to where you want to be so you can stay there? It's harder for sure. You're going to see less dramatic change for sure, but it's going to be so much more worth it.
The problem, I think, like, we always see these pendulum swings. So there's either the super aggressive all or nothing goals, like the extremists, mm-hmm. but then the opposite to that, a lot of people then are just like, well, just whatever, just don't even set those goals. It's like, no, that's not the answer either. The answer is not all of it, and the answer is not none of it. We need to do somewhere in the middle of that. And the extreme of being extreme high or extreme low is so easy for people. And that's where, you're spinning your wheels, you're not making any progress, and then you're really not getting anything done. So it's like, all right, let's have these goals, tiny little changes, reassess, mm-hmm. and then you'll make some progress. But don't do nothing either.
Yeah, don't do nothing. And speaking of nothing, that goes into our next goal.
Yeah.
It's the vague one. And this is really, like, honestly, the equivalent of not setting a goal. Yeah. And it's I want to be healthier, or I want to eat healthier, or like my mom's every year is, I want to be nicer, which is ridiculous because If anybody knows my mom, she's like the nicest human on the face of the earth, but she just thinks she's mean. I don't get it. Or I want to complain less. It's like these goals that have no measurement. How are you going to know whether you are doing it or not?
Yeah. What is the metric for nice?
Yeah.
Right. I could have a metric. You could have a different metric.
Yeah.
And obviously we're not saying that every goal has to have a very specific metric. That's clearly not true either. But having these things that are so vague is basically a cop out for doing nothing, right? I'll be nicer. And yeah, you're nice for a few weeks, nicer, whatever that is. You're healthier for a few weeks, whatever that is. And then you kind of go back to doing what you're doing because there's nothing to hold you accountable.
Mm-hmm.
That is the one good thing about the extreme goals. You know what you're supposed to be doing. It's there. It's in your face. All right, I either did it or I didn't do it. I got to run a 5K every day. I either fucking did it or I didn't do it. Do we think that's a great goal? Probably not. But you at least have something to where you can work towards it. With these vague goals, what's holding you there, right? Really nothing. So
how are you defining this?
Yeah, and the definition doesn't matter. But it matters to you. So if somebody's saying, I need to be healthier, okay, well, in what context are we talking about? Are we talking about eating more protein? Are we talking about eating out less? Are we talking about cooking more? Are we talking about, improving your cholesterol? Like, what are we talking about? You need to be able to define that for you. Your health goal might be different than my health goal. That's fine. But we need to have something that we can actively work towards. Yeah. And that is 100% the most important thing with any goal, is to define it, which is why when we said in the beginning, whether it's quarterly reassessments or daily power list or, a smaller to-do list, whatever it is, that's why those things work, because you know what it is and you're actively working towards it. And then on the day, it's a Thursday afternoon, you're tired of shit, you didn't sleep well the night before, things are really stressful. When that day comes around, like, you have to have something to hold you to keep you progressing forward. Otherwise, you just stop, and then the next thing you know, it's Monday.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with that. It kind of goes hand in hand with the extremist goal, but that definition, it needs some kind of like backing behind it, right? So like I can say I want to be healthier, but if there's no reason, like if I don't have a reason for this, and it's just kind of, it turns into something I just think I should be doing, or like, yeah, I should probably be healthier, so I'm going to try to be healthier in the new year. It's like, well, if you don't have any like motivation to do that, then you're not going to stick with it. So if you want to set a goal to be healthier and you're like, damn, I really need to be healthier. Why? What is the benefit of getting healthier? What are you going to get out of that? How are you going to do that? And then like actually set some real goals from that and dig into like, why do I even want to do this in the first place? And you might find that as you sit there and go like, I need to be healthier. I probably should be healthier. And then you're like, no, I'm pretty healthy. Because a lot of times people who are already like, they're already like pretty sufficient at things they think they, high internalize things and think that they're like not good enough, and that could be a thing too. Like, I really need to be better at this. They could realize, nah, I don't really need to focus on this. Or someone could realize like, oh yeah, I definitely would feel better if I were to be healthier, and I can do that by drinking more water, eating more protein, whatever that is for them. But to not have any definition, to not have any guidelines, it clearly lacks motivation and intentionality, and nothing's going to get done.
Yeah, the intentionality is huge. And like I said, on those days when you don't want to do it, or it's not convenient or whatever, you have to have something to hold you there. And again, that's why big goals work, because people are like, oh, but if they're too big and they're too out of reach, then that's when it's like, nah, whatever. Like, so you have to have these like small goals basically baked into the bigger goal. And that's where it's like, all right, we can have kind of like a daily check-in, or we can have like a weekly or a monthly check, whatever it is that you need to do to keep you hitting towards that. But you do need to have something baked in there so you don't just kind of do nothing.
You're just killing it on the seamless transitions today. I just got to tell you that.
Oh, wow. Well, I really fucked it up to start, so that's good. I called this year the next year 2020. So
no, you're just making this really easy.
Recover.
So, speaking of sometimes setting the too big of goals, there's the last one is the dreamer, and it's the one who like is very idealistic, thinks like along the lines of the new year, new me. I'm going to set this massive goal. Like I'm going to compete in 7 shows this year, even though I've never lifted a barbell in my life. Like those kind of, or Lauren, I'm going to run a marathon in 1 month. Like the big goals. And a lot of times this time of year, people truly believe in them. They're like, this is what I'm going to do, this giant thing. And even if you had the best intentions, there are some things that are just not going to be possible. Like, I'm not going to release a Grammy nominated album this year. I'm not. I could set that goal, but like, there's no universe in which that's going to happen.
Me neither. I don't think I need to let anybody know that one, but
but people can get excited because it's the new year and like it's going to be the best year ever, which like, let's just right now, like, not set any expectations for 2021. Like, it's just not. But to have those huge giant goals, yes, big goals are good, but they need to be realistic goals. And we need to have it be something that, again, actually makes sense for you in your life.
For sure. Yeah. And a lot of people in general, like, I think that, you know, we started this like, oh, what resolution type are you? A resolutioner are you? And I think a lot of people can be kind of a blend of these, right? It's, you know, you could be all of these, right? Like, you could set these, you could be an overachiever who sets a lot of vague goals, who are really idealistic, and then also throw in some like very specific ones too. Like, you could do all of these things. But the idealistic thought, and I think that this just kind of happens towards the end of the year. Like, it's like this is where the excitement of the resolution, like the excitement of the new year, like new chapter kind of kicks in. And that's when you're like, oh, you know, you're reflecting, like the end of the year, generally there's the holidays and there's more downtime and things are a little bit slower. So you have this idealistic version of your life essentially, right? Like, you know, you're hanging out, you have a lot of days off of work, you're just with your family, you know, you're kind of eating these meals and you're like, you know what, like, why am I not doing this 2-hour morning routine? Like, I could totally be doing that right now. But you're not thinking about, okay, the second week of April, I have this project due, I have to go give this presentation, I got to go travel here. Like, so you have this idealistic version of your life because you had a week or two of downtime, when in reality, it's like, all right, that's probably not how things are going to be going, especially when shit gets hectic. So we need to set things that, again, are intentional, and they have these, you know, small goals kind of baked into them, because otherwise, or not even goals, maybe just, you know, little checkpoints, I guess we would call it, you know, and that's going to be really, really important to kind of bringing the idealistic person down from the clouds. Say, all right, let's get practical. And the idealistic person is really great for setting those big goals, right? Where do I want to be in a year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever? That can totally change too, but where do I want to be? And for people who are like me, who can be overly rational, that actually is really hard for me. I'll look at that and I'm like, I don't know, I could be dead. Like, which I know is ridiculous, but I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen in 5 years. Like, I could be dead. I could be living in a different country. The world could be completely upside down. Aliens could be running the government. I mean, we don't really know at this point, right? Like, hey, listen, right? I'm buckling up for 2021. But in all reality, like those, like, because I'm so rational, I'm like, I can't think about this stuff. I'm more like focus here, which can be a negative too. So both of them can be negatives. We have to kind of balance in between and say, all right, where could I see myself be doing these things? But then also, let me get my head down and kind of focus on daily tasks, weekly tasks, monthly things that I can be doing. So
that's a great way to approach it too. Like we've been saying this whole time, like, set big goals for sure. Like, if you're somebody who needs a big goal to be motivated, or to have a vision, then set a big goal, but have those checkpoints and have the like the stair step goals. So like, if I want to become a pro, like, which I don't, but if I did, I would have to then qualify nationally, and I'd have to compete in, like, let's say I'm a new competitor, I have to compete in my first regional shows. And so that's going to take, and if I'm new, I'm going to have to start weight training and have these stair step goals for, okay, I could see myself this year, by the end of this year, competing in my first show. And then next year I could, reverse and go here and talk that over with somebody, whatever, if we're talking about competing in general. Or if it's something like, I want to run a marathon, but I'm not running right now, I'm going to sign up for a 5K in March. That's plenty of time for anybody to train for a 5K, most people. And then, you can go into a half marathon in the fall, and then full marathon this time next year. But to have those stair step, like, benchmarks, like, okay, if I'm going to do this big thing, I'm going to need to do these things first, because there's always going to be those things that you're going to need to do first or have down, and then have those daily behaviors that are going to lead up to that. Like if I'm going to run a 5K, I'm going to need to run 3 times a week. Check, check, check. Like have those like actionable steps, and not just the, I'm going to do this thing and it's going to be amazing and I'm just going to do it. And it's like, how?
Yeah. That's actually one of the cool things in general about martial arts that I like, is that there's belt systems.
Yeah.
So essentially there's, a ranking system and a hierarchy, and you understand, okay, in order to do this, I need to be, in order to get this belt, or this stripe, like I need to do this, and then I need to do these things. And it kind of, it's not super clear cut. It's not like, here's a list of all the things you need to do. Like it kind of is, but it kind of isn't, like hard to explain. But there is, you don't just go, I want to be a black belt. Like, when's that going to happen? It's like, well, you got 4 other belts you got to do first, right? Like, yeah, 4. Or whatever, right? And like, you're not just there, like you have these steps and you have these things that are worked in. You might compete along the way, might do whatever you decide to do, that's fine. And your journey is very different than everybody else's. But it's not just like, oh, I expect to be up here. It's like, nope. Like even if you dedicate your entire life to this and you're going, almost daily, it's still going to take many, many years to get there. You know what I mean? So I think it's kind of cool how that, like, it's just like a nice representation, especially for people who like those kinds of things. Whereas some other stuff can just be like, yeah, I could sign up for an ultra marathon. Doesn't mean I should be doing it.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to say I'm not going to do it either, right? Like it's just one of those things that I think that having those kind of tiny goals, those benchmarks, is going to be really important, whatever resolution that you're doing. And, as you're making these, set those 1 or 2 big things for yourself, but then also understand your daily life. You might be able to do a 1-hour morning routine because that works for you. You like waking up early. You don't have any kids. You have the perfect setup to do it. Cool, do it. Other people, like you said, that was great. You had an afternoon routine, and not even a routine. It was like one thing that you did that like stopped the negative behavior, right? So a lot of people think it has to be this whole elaborate thing. No, it could be like, wow, every day when I get off in the afternoon, I sit on the couch and I scroll my phone, and then it's 30 minutes later and I haven't done shit. Well, maybe instead, you have a glass of water and you go for a walk for 10 minutes, and then you come in and now you're productive.
Yeah.
That could be the routine. Doesn't need to be anything elaborate. But figure out not just this idealized version of your life because you've had a week off because of the holiday. Okay, what's this actually going to look like in my normal time?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like across the board with all of these things, it's all the same kind of fixes in general. It's like set the daily actionable steps. Like you have to have things that you're going to be able to do and do consistently. Know that like it doesn't have to be big, and it doesn't have to be all the things. It can be, and probably should be, those 1 or 2 things that you can do on a consistent basis. And then it's okay to have an end goal and a big end goal, but you have to have the patience to get there and get there in a way that is healthy, sustainable, makes sense, realistic, because if not, you're setting yourself up for long-term failure.
For sure. So yeah, I think that's it. I hope you guys have a really great first Monday of 2021.
Yes.
Hope it was great. And I'm excited for the new year for sure. There's been a lot going on this year. A lot of good, a lot of bad. And we're actually going to talk about the next podcast is going to be kind of the best and worst of 2020 for the health and fitness industry. So I'm really excited to kind of go through some of those things. We just thought it would be a fun episode, and also, again, be educational and hopefully use the good and the bad from last year to move us forward in a more productive way in 2021. So thank you guys as always for listening. If you have any questions about anything, you can go to teamlocofit.com. We have a newly redesigned site, so everything is super easy to find. All information about podcasts, articles, coaching, programs, everything is on there. So yeah, we will talk to you guys next week.